I think the most important thing from what happened this past series against the Cubs was Jesus Luzardo got right. And to me, I think that's the one thing that kind of stands out more than anything else. And, we could kind of get a little inside baseball here and talk about the specifics of what he did. But the reality of it is, he was so good for the first 2 months of the season, then so bad for 2 starts that it was 2 complete opposite ends of the spectrum. And to see the start that he had against a very good Cubs lineup tells you that those 2 starts were probably just a blip on the radar. And that's got to be a sigh of relief for Phillies fans, because if with everything that was going wrong for this team, if Jesus Luzardo completely falling off of a cliff in early June was being added to that, then there was some real worry. But now you look at it and say, okay, this rotation is still very, very strong. And one of our better guys figured out something and got back on track. So I think that was probably for the most important thing that happened this week for the Phillies.
Cubs have the second best offense in terms of runs per game in the league this season, in MLB this season. And so you get what you got on Monday night from Zach Wheeler. A little bit of a delay, 10 days. Here he is. He looks like Zach Wheeler. And then you get what you get from Luzardo on Wednesday and kind of quell some of those mounting concerns about what we had seen. And now you step back and you look at it and say, all right, I've got Wheeler. I've got Luzardo. And I know the innings limit is or not an innings limit, but the workload and exceeding what he's done in previous years is a concern. And how will he hold up down the stretch? And I get that. I understand that. And I'm not saying that one start against the Cubs that looked phenomenal is going to necessarily mean that this is what we're going to see the remainder of the season. But I think that we can sit here and talk this morning and say, all right, I feel solid about him. Next time he takes the ball, I feel like he's going to give me a premium start. And so if I have Wheeler, Luzardo, and then the way that Suarez has been throwing the baseball and Sanchez, I'm 4 deep there, and I'm really strong. I mean, those last 3 guys behind Wheeler all profile as number 2 type guys in a rotation. And so that depth, even with the shaky Mick Abel mixed in, even with the uncertainty about Andrew Painter, which we can talk about a little bit later in the show, and then with Aaron Nola and his injury issues taking a little bit longer to get him back, there's still a lot of interesting options in the back of this rotation and things that are coming down the pipeline that when you supplement it with these 4 guys up front, it's why I keep coming back to that this is a playoff team. And though that they are frustrating offensively and they have their defensive issues and they make you want to rip your head out, the reason why I don't get too low to the point that I'm like, oh, they're screwed, it's over, they're not making the playoffs, is because I look at this rotation and I do believe, like, my evaluation of this rotation is that it's outstanding. I think it has the chance to, when it's all said and done, be the best, and maybe not statistically, but just in terms of the way that people evaluate it in September. If everyone holds up, I mean, I think that this is the best rotation, probably the most dynamic rotation in baseball. And when you have that, it's really hard to win 82 games. Even if your bullpen is a mess, even if your offense is inconsistent and your star players hurt, I think you can really lean on this rotation.
And that's why I felt like, hey, the first win against the Cubs, it was a crazy game, right? I mean, they were a little lucky, let's be honest. I mean, I thought the Cubs kind of gave it to them at the end there. It was just a weird, strange game. And Rob even said it afterwards, and he actually misspoke when he said they only scored 3 runs. They actually scored 4, but they had 19 base runners and only scored 4 runs. That's really, really, really hard to do. So they kind of got away with one there. And then after losing the game where Mick Abel kind of, looked human after his first 2 starts were out of this world, it was an important game, that final game of that series, in a lot of ways. And Luzardo was the key component of it, but
them winning that game and Luzardo's performance changes the entire outlook in this moment of what we're watching. Like, if we're sitting here saying now they've lost another series, lost another series at home, Luzardo doesn't look good, and then you have the Abel slip up, and Painter has the hiccup the other night in the minors, and we don't know what's going on with Aaron, and then all of a sudden now the anxiety really starts to play up. And by the way, it was refreshing on Wednesday to see them hit the ball for extra bases. Like, that's a big part of this. Like, you talk about 19 base runners on Monday night. It's like single. Mixing in a double and a home run every now and then is kind of nice to see. It was refreshing.
Yeah, we'll get to that too. But here's the thing that I want to talk about with Luzardo. So he was convinced that he was tipping pitches. He did a one-on-one with Scott Lauber in the Inquirer, talked about that, about how he was really convinced he was tipping pitches. And the internet sleuths found it, and if you look at it, Pitching Ninja Rob Friedman, he showed a different delivery with runners on second base. There was another warmonger found that he had a different glove. It looked like a bigger glove. Turns out that it was. He told Matt Gelb that it was a bigger glove that he was using, and so he was able to hide the ball a little bit better. But the reality of it is, and I wanted to point this out because I don't think anybody pointed this out except for maybe me, is that he only faced 4 batters against the Cubs with a runner on second base. And so, like, if he was tipping against the Blue Jays and the Brewers, and that was a thing that he was tipping, okay, fine. But even in those 2 games, like, combined, there was only 10 times when there was a guy on second base combined in those 2 games. So he was getting rocked otherwise. Like, it wasn't just when there was a runner on second base that he was giving this away to. He was getting hit in other situations. So I did a deeper dive into the pitches that he was throwing. And in those 2 games, he was throwing the sweeper predominantly, wasn't throwing his 4-seam a lot at all, and was throwing his sinker. Against Chicago, the 4-seam usage was way up. It was 46%, whereas in the previous 2 games, it was 31 and 24, I believe it was. And then the sinker wasn't used at all. He didn't throw 1 sinker against the Cubs. And he was asked about that after the game, and he just kind of smiled about it. And, he didn't want to give anything away. And he said, we had a good game plan. And so, like, I think there was something a lot more to this than just I was tipping pitches when I was on second base.